Welcome to Revlog. We're missing Aaron today. Aaron is in Nashville with the flu, is what I've heard.
Okay, that's a new one. I had not heard anything about
Do,
that.
do you not know
In
this?
Nashville with the flu?
He went to Nashville for a conference and got the flu.
Oh, that is
Do you,
awful.
do you mean that?
Country music and the flu. Yeah, I really do mean it.
Yeah, poor
That's
Aaron.
really sad.
So
No, I am.
we
I'm
hope
sad.
Aaron's
I'm
back with
sad.
us next week. We miss you, Aaron.
We do.
This week,
Is he really sick?
yeah,
Oh,
really, really.
that's just awful. Okay.
Yeah, poor guy. In fact, he texted me today and said he's not sure if he's going to make it. So
Oh my word.
we'll see.
Good
Yeah,
grief.
I know.
Okay.
Poor guy. So send your condolences to Aaron.
Please.
Now let's get to the text for today. We are in 2 Samuel chapter 8, and I will tell you, working through this chapter, this has an amazing amount of names that we cannot pronounce. I think there's about 18,000 names
They
here.
needed a storage space for all these
I
names,
know,
and so
I
they
know.
created chapter 8.
I know, but I would tell
Yeah.
you, Bryan is brilliant at pronouncing these names. And so if you want to know for your Sunday school class how to pronounce each one of
Yeah.
these, email Bryan, Bryan,
That's right.
at fbcsa.org, and he'll send you the pronunciations.
Yes, I have made up some really, really, really good pronunciations. So
No, they're
great.
good. They're good. Well, let's jump in. Now, this text is a bit perplexing to me. Now, this is a text of war, and it's a text of
Mhm.
linking God with war and destruction from a nation. So I'm struggling a bit here.
Yeah,
But I mean, help me with this. Tell
well,
us your initial thoughts on the text.
the
And
struggle is real.
the struggle.
I will
The
say
struggle is
this is bloody history, and I
it
don't
is.
mean to say that I dislike history. Like this is bloody history. I mean this history is bloody. It really
bloody,
is.
yeah.
By the way, keep me away from David if he has a measuring tape in his hand. I don't. He's not. He's not getting ready for new drapes.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
sure.
That's right.
But it is very bloody, and it's not. I mean, we have to acknowledge that, but I don't think it's that all the bloodshed is just okay because David's the one shedding blood. I think we have to dive a little deeper than
What do you
that.
mean by that?
Well,
Help us dive deeper.
first of all, I think God clearly establishes a link between what's an acceptable approach to Him and bloodshed. Because even later He says, David, you're not the one to build
That's right.
uh,
Right.
the temple because you're a man of blood. So I think that um, there is this sense with God that there is a a kind of accountability that comes with bloodshed. But I think overall, God seems to be in this chapter and elsewhere too, moving towards peace in the world and order. But this current stage is characterized by a lot of faltering
Yeah,
steps
that's right. No,
towards that.
I'm with you, and I like the accountability that you're bringing up here because you see with this in all of these texts we're looking through in Second Samuel, the most important lines are the ones where it tells us about the character of God and who God is
That's
here.
that's right.
Where the Lord was with David, it tells us that twice here in the text. It tells us that even in the midst of this battle, as David is acquiring these spoils of war, he's dedicating them to God, and it shows the nature of his relationship with God, and even in those moments of great national progress, David is maintaining that relationship with God, handing that over to God, his tithe to his God, and
I
that's who he
think
was in that.
I think that's one of the most salient points about reading the violence in the Old Testament because you have people like David
Mhm.
who and Joshua way before him, people like that who often led these campaigns, and they were horrific. I mean, the
Yeah,
violence was great, but they were constrained because they were not carrying out capricious war. They tied themselves, however imperfectly, they tied themselves to the person of God.
that's
They
right.
kept themselves constrained, or God really did, but they knew they were accountable to
Yeah,
God.
that's right. Well, and I think you see this too. My favorite verse in here is verse 15, where it's describing as all of this bloodshed unfolds, it's describing David as this one bringing justice and righteousness.
That's right.
And so, and in that, you hear the character of God, that this was about justice and righteousness.
Yes.
And that's what he's living out. It's not just frivolous war.
Yeah, that's, I guess that's what I was
Yeah, absolutely.
searching for. It was not frivolous war. And uh, there is a progressive nature of God's revelation to people. I mean, he later on, in the New Testament, we see that even Paul is saying that to the Athenians, he's saying, in the past God overlooked certain things. Now He calls men to account. I mean, there is this
Hmm.
light, and ultimately He is establishing His order for the coming of the Prince of Peace,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, amen, amen. Before we go, did you have a question of the text?
Yeah,
What question arose for you out of this?
who puts structure? Well, let me put it this way. First of all, what do I do? What do I do with prosperity? David is
Good.
succeeding.
Yeah.
He's succeeding. All these victories. Um, we see many rulers become despots because they just get drunk on their own power. uh, in my own life, what do I do with prosperity? In other words, who puts structure around
Yeah.
it so
Yeah,
that I may
that's right.
see it in context? I think, Chris, that prosperity means something. When you get a piece of good news or you prosper in
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
that there's a meaning to that. And
Yeah, that's right.
often I I don't stop to say, what does this mean? Like when the
Yeah.
Jesus healed the leper, he said, first go show yourself to the priest. That act will help you put structure around that so that you can see that in a theological
Wow.
context.
Yeah, that's beautiful. No, I love that. I think for me, the question that I often try to come to in any biblical text is there something here for me to obey? And I think
Hmm.
these texts like this, very easy for us to misconstrue them towards violence or
That's
misconstrue them
yeah.
towards other things that are distant from God when we try to be obedient in the same way um, some of our biblical characters were. And so I wonder what obedience God is calling to
Mm,
me to here, or maybe what obedience is God calling our church to in this text, in a text like this. And
yes.
so help us with these questions in this conversation. Please answer and respond in the comment section below. Thank you.